All right, so picture this. Total chaos after an empire crumbles. Ambitious leaders are popping up left and right, forming alliances and, oh yeah, battling it out for ultimate power. Sounds a little familiar, right?
Yeah, like every other Tuesday.
Yeah,
Kidding. It does sound a bit like a movie plot, though.
totally. And that's ancient China's Three Kingdoms, period, in a nutshell. It's
Oh.
got everything. Drama, intrigue, and today we're taking a deep dive into it.
And not just any deep dive. We're diving into those excerpts you sent over from Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which, by the way, is not your average history book. It's the classic. It brings the Three Kingdoms era to life. All the political maneuvering, epic battles, you name it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This isn't just a dry account of who fought whom. We're talking about legendary figures,
Mm.
cunning strategies. Think like Game of Thrones, but with a lot more chariots and a healthy dose of Confucian philosophy.
Oh, absolutely. Way more chariots.
So before we get to all the drama and the nitty-gritty, let's do a super quick recap for those who might need a refresher on the Three Kingdoms. Like, what's the setup?
Okay, so imagine this. The Han Dynasty, they'd been ruling for centuries, right? But now they're totally crumbling. Corruption's everywhere. You've got natural disasters like nobody's seen before, and rebellions are, well, they're basically a daily occurrence at this point.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
Not exactly the peaceful transition of power they were hoping for, and that's where our story really kicks off.
Enter the Three Kingdoms.
Cue the dramatic music.
We've got Wei in the north, Shu in the west, and Wu in the east. And each of them wants to rule all of China. It's like a three-way tug of war with, like, really high stakes.
And holding onto the ropes are some of the most iconic figures in Chinese history. Each kingdom with its own leader, each with their own style and ambitions. Like, take Cao Cao of Wei, for instance. This guy was a strategic genius, a brilliant general, but
But,
he was also pretty ruthless. Remember those county officials in the excerpts? The ones he had executed?
oh yeah, not exactly the actions of a nice guy, are they?
No, Cao Cao definitely wasn't winning any most compassionate leader awards.
Huh.
But he was incredibly effective.
Effective might be an understatement. So we've got Cao Cao in the north, and then there's Liu Bei, leader of Shu, who's often portrayed as kind of the opposite of Cao Cao, at least in how he presented himself.
Right. Liu Bei's all about virtue, righteousness, uniting the people.
Yeah, very much the people's prince image.
And what's remarkable is how he inspired such deep loyalty. Like, this is a guy who could rally people to his side like no other. And it's not just some calculated political strategy. He truly believed in the power of unity and virtue.
And you can't talk about Liu Bei without mentioning his legendary brotherhood with Guan Yu and Zhang Fei.
Who seriously talk about loyalty goals?
They swore an oath to fight for a common goal, become like brothers in arms. I mean, they're practically the poster children for brotherhood and loyalty in the Three Kingdoms.
And that bond is really central to Liu Bei's whole leadership style. But things get complicated, because then you have Sun Quan, the leader of Wu, right? And he makes a move that really throws a wrench into everything.
Yeah, Sun Quan's not messing around.
Yeah.
In one of the excerpts, we see him breaking his alliance with Liu Bei. It's like watching a chess game where someone just flips the board.
And he doesn't stop there. He captures
Liu
Guan Yu.
Bei.
Yeah, that Guan Yu. And has him executed. Talk about a power move.
That's huge. It's not just about capturing some strategic territory. It's about striking at the very heart of Liu Bei's power, that unshakable loyalty he built his entire reputation on.
Exactly. And that's what makes this period so fascinating. It's a tangled web of alliances, betrayals, and power plays, all set against the backdrop of a collapsing empire. Sun Quan's decision to execute Guan Yu, that's not just a strategic move, it's personal.
Oh, totally. Remember, Liu Bei built his whole reputation on loyalty, brotherhood.
Exactly. So for him, Guan Yu's death, it's not just a political loss, it's a personal tragedy.
And that tragedy sends Liu Bei down a dark path, right into one of the most disastrous campaigns in the entire Three Kingdoms period, the Battle of Yiling. It's almost like watching a Shakespearean tragedy unfold. You have this grief-stricken leader risking everything for revenge.
It's classic hubris. Liu Bei, blinded by grief and rage, ignores advice from his advisors, people who've been with him for years, and throws everything into attacking Sun Quan.
Talk about letting your emotions get the better of you. And it really highlights how even the most virtuous leaders can have fatal flaws.
Right. But here's the thing. On the other side of the battlefield, you've got Sun Quan's strategist, Lu Sun.
Lu Sun, now there's a name you don't hear as often.
Right. But he's a fascinating figure. This is a guy who understood that battles aren't just won with brute force, He was a master of strategy.
So what did he do?
Well, he used cunning tactics to exploit Liu Bei's emotional state. He knew Liu Bei was driven by revenge and used that to his advantage. He basically set a trap and, well, Liu Bei walked right into it.
Ouch. It's like that saying, revenge is a dish best served cold.
And Lucen definitely served it cold. He completely outmaneuvered Liu Bei, securing a decisive victory at Yiling.
I bet that must have been a crushing defeat for Liu Bei.
It was. It decimated his forces, marked the beginning of his decline. He retreats to Beidacheng, a shadow of his former self, and basically never recovers.
So Liu Bei is facing his mortality. His kingdom is hanging by a thread. What happens to Shu? This is where Zhuge Liang, his brilliant strategist, steps into the spotlight, right?
You got it. With his dying breath, Liu Bei entrusts Zhuge Liang with the future of Shu. Talk about pressure. But if anyone can pull it off, it was Zhuge Liang.
This guy was legendary, wasn't he? Give us an example what made him such a brilliant strategist.
Well, for starters, there were his northern expeditions against Wei. Zhuge Liang didn't just react to his enemies, he anticipated their moves. There's even the story about him predicting the exact location where his enemies would seek shelter during a rainstorm.
No way.
Yeah, he was that good. He was always steps ahead, like a master chess player, always thinking 5 moves in advance.
Okay, so he's got the brains, the dedication, but he's still up against Wei. And that's where we meet another giant of the Three Kingdoms, Sima Yi.
It's like destiny had these two brilliant minds clash on the battlefield,
A real clash of the titans. Sima Yang with his bold, innovative plans. And then you've got Sima Yi, the master of defense and patience, always waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
Their back and forth is one of the most captivating parts of the Three Kingdoms, for sure.
It wasn't just about military strength, was it? It was about outsmarting each other, anticipating each other's moves, understanding your opponent's psychology.
Exactly. It was a high-stakes game of chess played out on an epic scale. And it shows how important strategy really is in the Three Kingdoms.
And not just in warfare. This isn't just about winning battles, is it?
Not at all. It's about navigating complex situations, making difficult choices, always thinking several steps ahead.
Which, let's be real, are pretty useful skills to have no matter what you do or when you live. It's wild how these stories from, what, like 1,600 years ago still feel so relevant, right?
Totally. The battle for power, strategy, ambition. Like, haven't we seen all this play out 1,000 times, even just in the news today? Seriously. It's like we're hardwired to be fascinated by this stuff. And speaking of hardwired, we've talked a lot about strategy, but let's not forget loyalty. The Three Kingdoms are full of examples of it, especially that legendary bond between Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei.
Yeah, absolutely. But, as we saw with Liu Bei's less than triumphant Yiling campaign, loyalty without strategy.
Yeah.
Not a great combo.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, too much of a good thing. You need balance, right? It's great to be devoted, to believe in a cause, to support a leader, but...
But you can't just follow blindly, especially when things are falling apart.
Exactly. Sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is, I don't know, ask the hard questions, challenge the status quo. Right. Offer a different perspective, even if it's not what people want to hear. And that leads us to another big theme in the Three Kingdoms' ambition, specifically, the dangers of unchecked ambition. Think about Cao Cao.
Oh yeah, Cao Cao is a textbook case of the ends justify the means.
Right. The guy achieved incredible things, unified the North.
And
he wasn't afraid to bend the rules, let's say, to get what he wanted.
he was definitely not losing any sleep over those county officials, that's for sure.
Yeah, Cao Cao reminds us that ambition can be a powerful motivator, but a dangerous one, too. It makes you think, what am I willing to sacrifice to reach my goals? And are those sacrifices really worth it in the end?
It's a heavy question. Definitely something to ponder. So we've got ambition, loyalty, strategy. Anything else from these excerpts really stand out?
Well, the Three Kingdoms really highlight the importance of adaptability, I think. I mean, think about it. The political landscape back then, it was constantly shifting. Alliances were made and broken in a heartbeat. People's fortunes were changing all the time. Leaders like Zhuge Liang and Sima Yi, they understood that to survive, you couldn't be stuck in your ways.
He's like, you can make all the plans you want, but when that first punch hits...
Exactly. You got to be ready to roll with it. And that's what separates those who succeed from those who, well, don't. It's about recognizing that the only constant is change, being willing to adapt and learn from your mistakes. And honestly, is that not a valuable life lesson for everyone, no matter what century you're living in?
Totally. I feel like we should bottle that up, put it on a motivational poster, embrace the chaos, be like Zhuge Liang.
Ah, there you go. See? The Three Kingdoms, always relevant. It's not just some ancient history lesson, it's a mirror, It reflects our own lives back at us. The characters, their struggles, these timeless themes, it all still resonates today because it's about human nature, about the challenges we all face, even now.
So true. It's like, yeah, it's a story, it's entertainment, but it's also...
It's about us.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so powerful. All right, well said. That about wraps up our deep dive into the Three Kingdoms. Hopefully everyone listening is feeling a little more strategic, a little more aware of the power of loyalty and its pitfalls, and maybe even a little more introspective about their own ambitions. Until next time, thanks for diving deep with us.